The ballroom erupted in applause. 10,000 people stood on their feet, champagne glasses raised high, as Vanessa Harmon took the stage in a stunning emerald gown. Her company Vance Corp had just become a global powerhouse. Her face glowed under the spotlight like she owned the world. Maybe she did. But as Lucas stood in the back corner of that extravagant venue, watching the woman he loved celebrate everything that wasn't him, something inside him shattered. He had been erased. Completely invisible. And in the next few hours she would sign away the last fragment of their marriage without even knowing what she was doing. Please, if you enjoy watching my videos, like, subscribe and comment where you are watching from so we can appreciate you in our next video. Thank you for watching. This is a story about betrayal. About being replaced by someone who couldn't hold a candle to your loyalty. About what happens when you choose status over love. And what happens when that choice comes crashing down. Vanessa stepped up to the microphone, her voice steady and commanding. 10 years, she announced. 10 years of building something from nothing. And I couldn't have done it without someone irreplaceable. Someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. The crowd leaned in. Vanessa's eyes found Adrian Moreau sitting at the front table. He was tall, dark-haired, impeccably dressed. He smiled and raised his glass. Adrian, Vanessa continued, you are the reason Vance Corp exists. You are the reason I'm standing here. The entire ballroom applauded. Cameras flashed. News outlets would run with it by morning. Power couple behind global empire. Everyone watching assumed Adrian was her husband. None of them knew that Lucas existed. That he was standing 15 feet away, holding a drink he couldn't taste, watching the woman he married dismantle their life in real time. Lily, their 12-year-old daughter, was sitting with Adrian. She clung to his arm, laughing at something he whispered. When Vanessa finished her speech, Lily squealed, "That's my Adrian." As if he belonged to her. As if Lucas, her actual father, was invisible too. He saw his daughter looking at Adrian the way she used to look at him. With pride. Love. With belief that this man was her hero. Later, as the event continued, Vanessa surrounded herself with investors and journalists. Adrian never left her side. They posed for photographs together. They laughed at the same jokes. At one point someone asked Adrian, "So, how long have you two been together?" He didn't correct them. He didn't say he was her business partner, not her husband. He smiled and said, "Forever it feels like." Vanessa squeezed his arm. She didn't correct him either. Lily came bouncing over to Lucas at one point. "Dad, can you take a photo of me and Adrian?" She didn't even call him Adrian. She called him Adrian like he was already her father. Like Lucas was just the photographer. He smiled. He took the photo. His hands were steady but his heart was drowning. Lily didn't even look at him when the picture was done. He went right back to Adrian. Around midnight, the celebration was still going strong. Vanessa found Lucas in the corridor outside the main ballroom. Her face was flushed, probably from champagne and the rush of success. "Lucas," she said, not bothering with pleasantries. "I need you to sign something. It's for the company. A new structure. It's complicated, but you just need to sign." He didn't ask questions. Not anymore. She handed him a document. Adrian stood behind her, his expression unreadable. Lucas scanned the papers. He didn't need to read every word. He understood what it was. A divorce agreement. Separation of assets. Full custody transfer to Vanessa. Everything was already decided. All he had to do was sign. "You don't want to make a scene," Vanessa whispered. "Everyone is out there. Just sign it, Lucas. Please." She said it like she was asking him to pass the salt. Like she wasn't asking him to erase himself from his own life. Lucas looked at Adrian. Adrian smirked. The smirk said everything. "I won. You lost. He chose me." Lucas took the pen Vanessa offered. He signed every page without reading a single word. His signature was the only thing left of him that Vanessa seemed to care about. When they got home later that night, Vanessa was furious. "You made things awkward tonight," she snapped, kicking off her heels. standing in the corner like some depressed ghost. Do you know how that looked? Do you know how many people asked about you? Lucas didn't respond. He was packing a suitcase. Adrian is 10 times the man you'll ever be, she continued. He understands vision. He understands ambition. You just exist, Lucas. You don't make anything better. You just make everything harder. Adrian stood in the doorway watching him pack. He was still smirking. Before Lucas left, he turned to Vanessa one last time. You should read what you made me sign tonight, he said quietly. Vanessa laughed. Don't be ridiculous. It was just a document. Yes, Lucas said. But not for the company. He picked up his suitcase. Vanessa didn't follow him to the door. Adrian did, just to watch him leave. As Lucas pulled away in his car, he looked in the rearview mirror at the house that had never really been his home. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. Vanessa's life had never been better. Adrian was always by her side now. He had moved into her bedroom, into Lucas's closet, into the dinner conversations where Lily no longer asked about her father. He spent money without hesitation. Designer clothes. Exotic vacations. A new car. Everything Vanessa had always wanted. Everything that made her feel like she had made the right choice. Business was booming. Investors were calling. Vanessa was on magazine covers. The divorced woman who rebuilt an empire. The woman who found real love. No one knew about Lucas. He had been erased so thoroughly that it was as if he had never existed. Then Lily got sick. It started with a fever. Then a rash. Then she couldn't eat. Vanessa took her to the hospital at 3 in the morning, her heart pounding like a trapped animal. The doctors ran tests. They asked questions. And slowly the answer became clear. Lily had a rare autoimmune condition. She needed specific medications. Careful monitoring. A detailed medical history. Vanessa realized, sitting in that hospital room, that she didn't have Lily's complete medical history. She didn't know every medication her daughter had taken over the years. She didn't have the records that mapped out Lily's health like a detailed map. But Lucas did. Lucas had kept meticulous notes. Every doctor's appointment. Every symptom. Every prescription. Lucas had been Lily's first doctor, her nurse, her caretaker when she was born. And Vanessa had pushed him out so completely that she couldn't reach him. She tried calling. His number was disconnected. She tried reaching out through old emails. Nothing. It was like he had vanished from the earth. Adrian sat beside her, useless. He held her hand, but he didn't know how to help. He didn't have the information. He wasn't the parent who had been there from the beginning. Vanessa realized in the sterile hospital light that Adrian was decoration. He was a trophy. He wasn't the person you needed in a crisis. While Vanessa was focused on Lily, something else was happening to her company. Investors started pulling out. Not because of rumors or scandals. Just quietly leaving. Deals that were certain a month ago fell through. A major partnership that was supposed to close in June was cancelled in May. No explanation. Just gone. Vanessa's CFO came to her with a troubling report. Several of our biggest deals, he said, were actually being quietly supported by a silent investor. We didn't know it at the time, but someone was pulling strings behind the scenes. Guaranteeing loans. Opening doors with government officials. Making sure certain partnerships went through. Who? Vanessa demanded. We don't know. The money came through shell companies. The connections went through intermediaries. Whoever it was, they wanted to stay hidden. And now it seems like they've stopped. 3 weeks later, an invitation arrived. Embossed in gold. For an exclusive global business summit. By invitation only, it read. Meet the architects of tomorrow's world. And discover the identity of the most powerful hidden investor in modern business. Vanessa's hands trembled. Maybe this was the answer. Maybe the mysterious investor would be revealed. Maybe she could convince them to help her again. Adrian was ecstatic. This is it, he said, already imagining himself networking with billionaires. This is our moment to get back to the top. The venue was unlike anything Vanessa had ever seen. A private resort carved into a mountainside with panoramic views of the world below. The guest list was a who's who of global power. CEOs, politicians, royalty. Vanessa and Adrian moved through the crowds like sharks, making connections, positioning themselves. But then in a quiet corridor Vanessa saw him. Lucas. Standing alone, dressed in a simple dark suit. Not trying to impress anyone. Just standing there looking out a window at the mountains. He looked different. Not because of his clothes or his appearance, but because of the way he carried himself. There was something unmistakable about him now. Something powerful. Adrian saw him at the same moment. His face broke into a wide, cruel smile. Lucas, he called out, his voice dripping with fake warmth. What are you doing here? Trying to find work? Maybe they need someone to park cars. Several people turned to look. Vanessa felt her stomach drop. She didn't want Lucas here. She didn't want to be reminded of him. She wanted him gone, forgotten, erased. Lucas, you should leave, she said coldly. You don't belong here. Lucas turned to look at them. His expression didn't change. He didn't look angry or sad or embarrassed. He just looked, come. Actually, he said quietly, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. 30 minutes later, the entire summit gathered in the main auditorium. 3,000 of the world's most powerful people in one room. The lights dimmed. A voice echoed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered to reveal the identity of the architect. The visionary. The man who has shaped industries and changed nations from the shadows. Vanessa leaned forward in her seat. Adrian gripped her arm. This man is not one of us. He doesn't need cameras or press or recognition. He operates in the spaces between power. Making moves. Building empires. Protecting investments. And today, for the first time in history, he will step into the light. The spotlight burst on. And there he was. Lucas. Walking up the stairs to the stage like he owned the world. As he did. The room erupted. Not in applause at first, but in chaos. People pulled out their phones. They checked databases. And slowly the truth spread through the room like wildfire. Lucas wasn't just rich. He was a billionaire. Not one but several times over. His holdings spanned industries. Technology, finance, energy, pharmaceuticals. He had been funding Vanessa's company from the beginning. He had orchestrated her success like a conductor leading an orchestra. And the moment she chose Adrian, the moment she abandoned him, the music stopped. Vanessa stood up. Her legs felt like they weren't hers. Adrian was already trying to push through the crowd toward Lucas, probably thinking he could salvage something. But people were stepping away from him. People were looking at him like he was a fool. Lucas reached the microphone. His voice was steady, powerful, with an edge that hadn't been there before. My wife, my ex-wife now, built a company that became successful, he said. People think she built it alone. That she is a self-made woman. The truth is more complex. More tragic. He built it with my support. My money. My strategy. My connections. She built it with a man who loved her enough to hide his success so she could shine. Vanessa felt the eyes of thousands of people turning to her. He wanted to disappear. But I learned something, Lucas continued. Success without loyalty is just a beautiful corpse. And the moment she chose someone else, I withdrew my support. Every deal that was promised to her, gone. Every investor who was positioned to work with her, gone. Every advantage she had, gone. Because love isn't a business transaction. And once you break it, you can't simply trade in the other party and expect the benefits to remain. Within days, Vanessa's world crumbled completely. Investors fled. Contracts were terminated. The money that had been flowing into her company suddenly dried up. The partnerships that seemed unshakable evaporated. It turned out that most of the important deals in her company weren't built on her brilliance. They were built on Lucas's invisible hand, guiding everything. Adrian left her within a week. He had a new woman by his side at a charity gala. A woman whose father actually had money. He had never cared about Vanessa. He had only cared about what she could give him. And now that she couldn't give him anything, he was gone. Lily, still recovering in the hospital, stopped asking for Adrian. Instead, she asked for Lucas. She wanted her father. She wanted the man who had always been there. Vanessa tried to find him, but he had no reason to respond. He had finally moved on. He had finally let her go. 3 months later, Vanessa found him. Or rather, she tracked him down through old connections. He was at a private airport preparing to board his plane. She ran toward him, and for the first time her face showed the truth of what she had become. Broken, desperate, lost. "Lucas," she gasped. "Please. I made a mistake. I was confused. I didn't understand what I had. Please forgive me. Please come back. For Lily. For us." Lucas looked at her for a long moment. Not with anger. Not with hate. With something worse. Pity. "Do you know the difference between you and me, Vanessa?" he asked. "I loved you when you had nothing. When you were struggling. When you needed me. You only loved me when I was useful. When I could make your dreams come true. Love isn't proven when life is easy. It's proven when there's nothing to gain and you stay anyway." "I stayed," Vanessa whispered. "I stayed for years." "Oh," Lucas said. "You left the moment something shinier appeared. And once you leave, you can't come back. That's not forgiveness. That's just regret." He walked away. Toward his plane. Toward whatever life waited for him beyond her reach. Vanessa stood alone on the tarmac, watching the man she had thrown away disappear into the clouds. She had made her choice long ago at that anniversary party, when she chose applause over love, status over loyalty. And now she was facing the consequences. Lily was in recovery, asking for a father who didn't need her anymore. Her company was bankrupt. Adrian was gone. And Lucas? Lucas was exactly where she had always feared he'd go. Somewhere she could never follow. The plane lifted off. It climbed higher and higher until it was just a speck in the sky. Vanessa stood watching until she couldn't see it anymore. Then she turned back toward her car, back toward her empty house, back toward a life where everything she had built was ash in her hands. The greatest mistake wasn't choosing the wrong person. It was abandoning the one person who would have stayed no matter what. And by the time Vanessa understood that, it was far too late. The love she had taken for granted was on a plane, flying toward a future that no longer included her. And she would spend the rest of her life knowing that she had destroyed the most beautiful thing she ever had. But the story doesn't end here. 6 months later, Vanessa received a letter. Came from a lawyer. Inside was a document. And a single handwritten note from Lucas, in his careful, familiar handwriting. "Lily asked me if I could help with her medical expenses. Some things are bigger than pride. Some people are worth the hurt. But we can never go back to what we were. We can only move forward. I'm paying for her care. For her future. Not for you. But for the daughter you gave me. That's love without expectation. Something I hope you finally understand." And Vanessa finally understood. Too late. But she understood.